history that's tied into it, and it has to do with a couple of gang members who have appeared on social media sites.
My name is Shayna. I'm 17 years old, and I've lived in Trenton, New Jersey my entire life. I think I was in the 3rd grade when I first realized that the city I lived in was considered dangerous. A large majority of the influential adults around the city always described gangs as being bad, and the people who were involved were described as nothing more than either misguided youth or gun-wielding savages. I believe that there are two sides to every story, and I believe that the people involved in gangs and criminal activities are much more than the two titles that are given to them.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions. They're killing our children.
I set out to get a more complete perspective about everything by interviewing 3 different Trentonians with 3 different backgrounds. I started out in West Trenton.
I'm Mahik Naqvi. I'm from West Trenton. I'm a junior at Trenton High School West. And I'm 16 years old.
So what type of stuff do you do?
Well, currently I am heavily involved in my debate team. Actually, I'm president of my debate team. I'm vice president of the Model United Nations Club at my local high school. I'm in this program called the Princeton University Preparatory Program, which is a college prep program for low-income, high-achieving students who would like to further their academic interests and go to the best colleges possible.
I'm Black.
How old are you?
17.
So where are you from, Black?
From Cleveland. Yo, from GCL, Garfield, Cleveland, and Logan. Yeah, I hang with them, shit like that, you feel me? But I'm not blood or crip. I know a lot about the shit, though. I grew up around it. I would have daylight twilight right now. So after school, go home, change my clothes, right back out the door, you feel me? Going to GCL from my hub, you feel me? Go out there, chill with my niggas, smoke, play basketball, whatever, just chill. Whatever happens from there happens, feel me? You never know, you feel me? Today not promised, you feel me? So.
Next, I traveled out South Trenton to talk with the man who played a big part in the format of the Sex Money Murder Bloods.
All we do is pull the trigger. That's that murder.
Early Harrell, also known as the Almighty Blood Messiah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Trenton, New Jersey, born and raised. I've been here lifelong, 38 years old. You know, been around in Trenton my whole life. So I've seen everything, done everything that you can do in Trenton.
What gang are you affiliated with?
Sex, money, murder.
So did you play a big part in the flourishing of the Bloods?
Yes.
Can you explain some of the role you played?
Well, my role was this. Well, I seen young guys that wanted it, but I also seen, guys bringing guys in and wasn't bringing them in right. You know what I'm saying? They're just bringing them in.
So what's the right way?
Well, the right way is to educate a person into what they're getting into.
So I decided the best way to make sure that all the new information I was getting was accurate was to get an expert, and I knew exactly where to go. Can you explain to me some of the things that a sociologist does?
So different sociologists do different things. It all depends on what your area of interest is. So I'm interested in interaction and social order. So I use a method called ethnography. And that means that when I do my work, I hang out with the populations I'm writing about rather than just crunching numbers or something like that. It's really funny when we think about gangs because we always think criminals. And if you think about it, there are other sorts of gangs, right? Like fraternities or secret societies. If we're going to ask how that starts, it's really just human nature. We all want to engage in social behaviors with one another. And we tend to seek out people who are similar to us or who have similar beliefs to us. So it already stems from this social compulsion. The criminality in gangs is a different thing, but the fact that the gang happens, I think, is just human nature.
Me, I thought it was just, a bunch of guys wear different color bandanas, run around, shoot up, kill, and, that's it.
I don't really know that much about gang life in Trenton.
Either they brothers, feel me, was in the shit, feel me, friend was in it, feel me, or just like for protection almost too, you feel me? You got motherfuckers who bullied this whole, feel me, through a whole score, feel me? Like, fuck this, I'm about to turn blood, I'm about to turn crip, like, bitch ain't gonna fuck with me then, you feel me?
It was a lot different from learning from my boy. Like it was more of, nah man, like we're a unity team, like we're a team of brotherhood to maintain our communities, you know what I'm saying, to make sure that things like police brutality, oppression in our community, including self-oppression, is done with in our community, you know what I mean? So educating yourself out of the situation.
But there is more research that shows that you are more likely to become a victim if you are in a gang. And so there's not this protective factor that a lot of people like to claim that it has.
Some of the reasons why they continue to grow to the point that they're currently at.
I mean, I think it's the same, right? This compulsion. And so it might be intensified, though, in parts of society where people don't have as much opportunity. And so that's why the criminal aspect starts to come into it, where we find poverty, a lack of education.
A lot of these brothers couldn't read. A lot of grown men couldn't read. And I was like, oh, but you leading these young people?
Why do you think that is, that so many older people can't read?
I think when you don't find positive influences in your community where you actually live at, that reality kicks in, that it's more than likely that I'm not going to make it to college, but it's more than likely that I'm going to either get killed or go to the workhouse. It kind of make you, give up fast. You know what I'm saying?
So like the lack of opportunities.
Yeah.
Great healthcare, where a large proportion of adult and teenage men are in prison or in the system. These are the things that leads to it. So it's not minorities and immigrants, it's mostly poverty and opportunity that is what causes this.
My father, he was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago because he is a diabetic, and recently his diabetes got so bad that he has started to take insulin. Insulin is really expensive, and my father doesn't have any type of health insurance.
When the likelihood of you being successful in anything else is slim to none, but you can become an OG in 4 to 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, I'll take it. They'll take it. Because like I said, because they feel once I become the OG, I'm gonna have money, I'm gonna have girls, I'm gonna have the cars, I'm gonna have cribs and jewelry, da. With that on top, versus, you can go to work at McDonald's, you could be on the fries, you could be on the, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Messiah said a lot of things I never heard of before, but something in particular stood out to me. Can you describe to me the Willie Lynch analogy you gave me earlier?
The Willie Lynch system is basically, the breaking of the family, how you break down a family structure in order to enslave these people. Not just enslave them, but to control them without discretion. The first slave system was causing a lot of rebellion. It was bad for business because you had slaves running away, you got slaves burning down the crops, you got slaves killing the animals off, and even sometimes killing off the master. So they had to create an economic system that made you totally depend on them. So therefore now, if they control your livelihood, you always need them. So you cannot get rid of them. You cannot not need them. You know what I'm saying? But they don't need you.
How does this relate to Trenton?
This relates to Trenton because it's the same idea. It's a torn away family. The system of Trenton, New Jersey is set up exactly that way. They took away the workforce and they implemented in the drug situation, which tore the whole family, which separated the fathers from the sons, which created all of these separations within the community and how we perceive each other, and it only affected us, you know what I'm saying, really.
You have more of an impact psychologically, feeling like a slave, or the actual system of oppression itself?
Psychologically, because we have the freedom to do what we want to do and actually live life the right way, or I don't want to say there's no right way to live life, or just like live way to I don't want to say correct. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Live a good life. You feel me? That's what I'm saying. You feel me? Instead of just doing the same shit we do, like we still slaves mentally.
Since everybody got the Bible or Quran in their house, they should have the Willie Lynch system as well, and read it thoroughly, and let your kids know that it's for real.
Like, we was treated like hell for over 400 years, bitch, and we still slaves mentally, if you ask me.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Elaborate on the being slaves.
Oh, like we feel like we can't go nowhere. Like we just stuck in one spot. You feel me? Like I can't. Like I feel the same way sometimes myself. Like I feel like we can't broaden our horizons. Like we gotta do the same shit every day. Like we gotta stay in we can't leave. You feel me? Like or we gotta sell drugs to make money. That's the only way to get it. Like it's not. It's a sad situation, but you feel me? Like I said, we still slaves mentally. You feel me? Like we free, but we still slaves. Our
So
people stuck.
If more people were able to realize that psychologically they're oppressed, do you think that would lead them in a different path from gang life?
I think it will. Or if not, change the life for me, like change the lifestyle, like try to make it better, like do more for the community. Shit like that, you feel me? Or like better they self, almost, you feel me? Cause like once you in the game, you can't get out, you feel me? That's that shit like forever. You stuck in that shit.
Or the decisions that you make, do they perpetuate this or do they go against it?
Oh, mine go against it all the time because I'm always aware that, you know, that the people that I'm dealing with are not in their right mind. They're suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. You know what I mean? In order for me to break my post-traumatic slave syndrome, I had to go to the library and study. I couldn't go to college and get the information that I needed because it was going to be a controlled, condensed situation, which though, once again, I'll be systematically being educated into, you know, what they will allow me to learn. But the opportunities came because we were better educated. You know what I'm saying? And that made us, you know, want to educate more people. So just off the strength, because we blood, like, and as a blood, that's your duty. You're supposed to take care of the community. And there's a lot of misconception about that. Like, a lot of people think we use that as a tactic. Like, that's not no tactic. That's what the acronym is.
So explain the acronym.
The acronym is brotherly love, overriding oppression and destruction of our society. That's what the blood's supposed to do. That is exactly his duty. So we're supposed to bang against all oppression to protect all that can't bang for themselves in our communities. That's what we're supposed to do.
And that's the sole purpose?
That's so we can have self-sufficiency, so we can end self-oppression. So if you end self-oppression, you can stop any outside oppression because you ain't gonna let somebody do something to you that you won't do to yourself.
I think that, you know, for a poor community with a high concentration of immigrants, especially a high concentration of illegal immigrants who have even lower sort of opportunity, you will see a greater lack of trust in police because they're not just afraid of the police in general, but they're afraid of also being deported. In a poor community, illegal immigrants have less agency to establish or to make claims on what they believe they're entitled to. So they can't complain to landlords. You know, if your gas goes out or your water's gone out and you complain to your landlord, he might threaten you with Homeland Security. And then what are you going to do? Because of that, immigrant communities might be affected a little bit harder. But at the same time, it's really difficult to say what's an immigrant community and what's not these days. It's, you know, I think it's more poor communities versus non-poor.
My parents came from Pakistan to America, like all immigrants come to America. You know, they came here for a better life. They came here for a better education for their children than they would have gotten in Pakistan. Their life in America is certainly better, but I wouldn't say that they're happier in America than they are in Pakistan. Because when they were in Pakistan, they were surrounded by people that, you know, they knew that they could speak the language with, or that they shared similar cultures. But they came to America and now, you know, they meet American people and they can't really speak the language. They can't understand each other. You know, how do you expect an American to understand somebody who doesn't speak English, and how do you expect a Pakistani to understand somebody who doesn't speak Urdu. Problems that a lot of, not just Pakistanis, but a lot of immigrants face when they come to America is how are they going to learn this language, and how are they going to communicate with people, and how are they going to use that communication to get a job.
Mahik's parents came here nearly 25 years ago. Like many people who immigrate to the United States, Mahik's dad works extremely longer than your average 9 to 5. Although he's a college-educated man, here in America he has to work as a cab driver.
He'll wake up at 8 a.m. He'll get ready, eat food, and then he's out the door by 2 o'clock to catch a train. Then he'll be there at like 5 o'clock, and he'll work until 4, so he'll work 12 hours. And then from 4 to 6, he's on a train again, back to Trent. And then he'll wait until 8 o'clock and drop me off to school, and then he'll go to sleep. For his health, that's not good. If you have an illness, you're not supposed to work that much. You're not supposed to work without taking a break. And that's something that my father just can't do because of our financial situation. It depends on it. It depends that he works every day for 7 days.
How old is your dad?
My father is 60 years old.
And isn't that the normal retirement age?
That is, but unfortunately my father probably won't retire anytime soon.
Do you think that because it's harder for immigrants in America, that contributes to why your dad has to work so much?
Oh yeah, very much. That's like the main factor. Because if my father had come here and, they accepted his degree from college, then maybe, he wouldn't have to do what he does. Maybe he could have a nice job in some office somewhere and not work 14-hour workday. Maybe he can have an 8-hour workday. Obviously, it's a cycle of poverty. And who puts the minorities in this cycle of poverty? The government. It's so easy to blame the government, but they are the cause. You're the ones who are going to take these immigrants and you're going to put them in these slums, in project housing. Like, poverty and crime go hand in hand. Because obviously, if you have resources, you're not going to want to steal and you're not going to want to sell drugs because you don't need to.
After hearing Mahik's story, I thought about how her struggles were not only similar to other Trent immigrants, but to other Trentonians as well. Some of the dilemmas that she faced were the same ones that might influence someone to get involved in criminal activities, yet there are still common misconceptions about gang members.
People view gang members as like these horrible creatures who just do it because they hate people and they like to, see the downfall of mankind. But in reality, they're just trying to make a quick buck. They're just trying to get money so they can buy milk for their babies.
Other factors, such as identity, might cause some people to simply rebel and do things that they normally wouldn't. So it's a bread.
For a Pakistani woman, all that they're taught to do at a young age, for most Pakistanis, for the poorer ones anyway, is, work at the home so they can get married and then clean their husband by doing this housework. And there's actually a quote that in rural Pakistani areas, the husband is the second god. And that's something that I just don't agree with.
Although factors like post-traumatic slave syndrome, the Willie Lynch system, and the cycle of poverty may subconsciously influence people, there are still people who do illegal things just because.
And you got guys that's blood that'll straight kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to do nothing else. Like, there's some of these guys that they don't even want to do nothing else. Just call them when it's time to kill somebody. That's it. You know what I mean? But you need them. To be honest with you, you do need them because things happen. It's crazy.
So I wonder, what can be done?
Well, I think the problem that we have is that we've always tried to solve it by breaking gangs up and by telling kids that they are bad for doing this. Now, if gang formation is simply an extension of natural human behavior, you're starting to tell people that they're bad for being human. So that's the wrong way to do it. I don't think we can try and I don't think we should try and control natural behavior. And I think it's pretty obvious we can't.
even a should or could do. It's a must do type of thing. And this is the only thing we can do right now in Trenton to change the situation, and that is to refurbish the warehouses. Turn them back into places of businesses instead of dilapidated dwellings that's just sitting here for people to go and what do you call it, where and squatting. You know, we got people just squatting in these warehouses because they don't got nowhere else to go.
Like, learn your history. First thing, feel me? Learn your history, feel me? And from there, like, just educate yourself, better yourself, like, feel me?
Is change these environments, right? So we can build better schools. We can put better teachers into the inner city. We can make sure that schools are sticking to their curriculum so students go to tests and have the same advantage that people coming from a private school might have. We can, we need better funding for after-school programs. We need a much stronger welfare system, more access to healthcare. Young women need access to affordable family planning. They need affordable contraception. We need to create jobs, and we need to end the war on drugs. And so if we did all those things, I think we would find that gangs suddenly weren't a problem. And that you've got kids in the inner city hanging out in groups and getting rowdy, because that's what teenagers do. But they wouldn't need to provide what the state is supposed to.
What I realized at the end of my journey is that gang culture is a lot more than what it seems, and so are the people who are involved. With all the new information, it's impossible to be either completely for or against gangs. There are so many questions like, what exactly have the Bloods done for our community? And it's a little bit ironic that they have such a powerful purpose, yet Messiah's set name is Sex, Money, Murder, which is a little bit contradicting. Then there's the idea of lack of opportunities. Is there really a lack of opportunities, or just a lack of people who will take advantage of them? The idea of how poverty and drugs go hand in hand is indisputable, however. I walked around with Black in East Trenton neighborhood, and we ended up at a trap house, which is where gang members go to chill and most likely take part in criminal activities.
This shit is real. This is a trap right here. I'm gonna boy free fats on the wall. Shit don't say interaction on risk for no reason. It's real. About to go in the jungle, man.
Despite all the questions that remain, what is clear is that America is the land of opportunities. However, there's not an equal amount of them. People of all classes have one thing in common: the threat of poverty. While many people who believe that they'll never stoop to gang life or illegal activities, a set need of money might bring them closer to where they never thought they'd be at. Mohican Black are teens from two completely different worlds, yet they could both end up in the same place, living a life of crime. This is why it is very important to seek first to understand, then to be understood, because really, anyone can fall into a life of crime. It could be me, or even you.